All right, we're back here on kHEN, our station takeover with the Chaffee County Community Foundation. Thank you so much to everyone in the Chaffee County Community Foundation for their support today. We're here with another nonprofit and Betsy.
Well, I do want to share before we dive into our next guest, we hit a really important milestone. So last year, all through 2023, we raised $390,000 through Chaffee Gives. We just hit $355. So
wow,
that's a great, I mean, it's just overwhelming to feel the level of support that the community is stepping up with this year.
And that was all of December last year.
Yep.
Oh my gosh. That makes me super happy.
So yeah, with that celebration, let's move on to our next guest. Amanda, thank you for being here. Can you tell us a little bit about Lake County Build a Generation?
Yeah, my name is Amanda Fitzpatrick, and I work with Lake County Build a Generation. We actually grew out of a statewide program there were Build a Generations in communities across the state, and Lake County is the only one that still exists. Originally, it was doing substance use prevention. We don't do that anymore, but we follow the same model, which is community-driven issues and community-driven solutions. So what that looks like is coalition building mostly. We put a whole bunch of different people in the same room, people who have lived in Colorado for generations, people who moved here 3 months ago, people who own businesses, nonprofit employees, people who only speak Spanish, people who only speak English, and facilitate conversations between them to address some of our initiatives. Our main initiatives are affordable housing, food access, childcare access, youth development, and renters' rights. And so these are all really big.
Oh, is that all?
They're these huge
Maybe
issues.
you should think about expanding. I don't know.
But what is good about our model is no one person can address these problems. And so that's why we build these coalitions. We put a lot of different people in a room to help combine capacity, to help combine life experience, and build power within the community. We also practice something called radical imagination, which is super fun and I'm really passionate about. Not to be too existential, but if you think about it, the systems that make up our society are all just made up by somebody that got put into place. And so radical imagination says, if this thing was made up, this system was made up that's not serving our community, it's not working, we can just make up something else instead. So we facilitate our coalitions and community members to be really creative and imaginative and thinking about the world they want and how to get there. And so once we have that idea comes the practical part where we will help facilitate the practical steps to get to a community where everyone has their basic needs met.
I think that's fantastic because it's so true. We get locked in our thinking into the way that, oh, this is how you have to do it. But this actually isn't the way you have to do it. It's just the way someone decided that we were going to do it.
Yeah, totally. And it can be really daunting to look at something like affordable housing in rural Colorado. How do we fix that? And so encouraging people to be imaginative and creative and think about it in a way maybe no one solved it yet. And so we don't have a blueprint to follow, and maybe we can figure out a new way to do that.
And what was that called again?
Radical imagination.
Radical imagination. That's really cool. I like that a lot.
So I do want to talk a little bit. I mean, this is Chaffee Gives, right?
Yep.
And this is Lake County Build a Generation. And it's always been our position at the Chaffee County Community Foundation is that our borders are blurry and these issues are so interconnected with our neighboring regions. And just because there's a county line doesn't mean that we don't have people working and living in Lake County that are also working and living in Chaffee County. And so I am so glad that you are part of the Chaffee Gives campaign because we do have so much overlap within the area.
Yeah, thank you so much for having us and including us because our name is really a byproduct of being the Lake County Build a Generation from the 90s when that was the statewide program. We have a lot of community partners that we work with super closely in Chaffee County and Summit and Eagle. And it's not just about our residents overlapping, but we're all one community in rural Colorado. And so when we talk about our Lake County community, it includes everyone around us as well.
You're upstream.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
Yeah, and when you're talking about some of these bigger issues, the housing, food access, childcare, environment, these are interconnected issues, and so the food shed is much larger than any one county, and childcare issues is much larger than any one county. So I'm glad that you are a constant presence in a lot of the conversations that we have here in Chaffee as well.
Yeah, thank you for including us.
So how did you get involved in this?
Yeah, so I was working at a direct service organization. And so in nonprofit jargon, you have direct service organizations that work directly with an individual, maybe like a homeless shelter where you're helping someone who is usually in crisis. And I saw a lot of our clients had the same underlying problems were causing that crisis for them. And so I became really motivated to work at this systemic org that's Build a Generation, where you're kind of addressing that problem, because you can have really good services from a direct service organization that stabilize you and help you get out of crisis, but you still went through that trauma of being homeless or experiencing food insecurity. And so I really am motivated by work that is creating a world where no one is in crisis in the first place, and no one has to go through not knowing where their dinner is going to come from or how they're going to pay rent. And that's the work that Build a Generation does, and I find it really rewarding to be a part of.
For some of the folks out there that are listening in and really just sort of learning about this coalition building, can you give an example of how your work has translated into a success story?
Yeah, totally. I actually have a few success stories I'd love to share. Our work is so diverse, it was hard for me to just kind of narrow it down to one. But for our housing work, something that actually passed just about a month ago was a ballot measure in Lake County to allow our regional housing authority to retain funding over multiple fiscal years. So due to Colorado law, they weren't able to do that. And if you think about housing projects, they take more than 1 year to build. So now that we had that successful passage, our regional housing authority is going to be able to actually build affordable housing. And so with the support of our coalition, we passed this policy that is going to have a concrete impact with new housing stock and new affordable units for our community. Something else, our childcare work, we have something called an early childhood education fund that puts money into families for tuition assistance or into providers for professional development. And so by doing the groundwork or the legwork of talking to the government and making these partnerships with the government, which we have a partnership with the tourism panel for the continued funding, we set up this fund that is directly impacting families by helping them afford childcare. And our food success story is we implemented this app called the Fresh Food Connect app. We have a lot of folks who really love to grow their own food in Leadville. And through this app, they're able to donate their uneaten food to people who need it. So it's limiting food waste in Leadville and also getting healthy, locally grown food directly to people who need it. And what LCBAG is doing in that is all of the administrative work of propping that app up and keeping it running.
I've heard about that app, and it is so cool. I mean, as a mediocre gardener myself, I can grow herbs, lettuce, and tomatoes, and that's it. But I grow impressive. A lot of them. And so having that opportunity to share my tomatoes and maybe get something else in return is a pretty cool concept.
Yeah, I mean, at altitude, if you're growing something, like, you don't want that to go to waste. No. And so being able to, you put a lot of hard work into that and getting it, and now someone can eat some produce that they didn't have access to before.
Yeah, especially in Leadville, your growing season is precious.
Yeah, it's short.
Well, let's talk about funds from Colorado Gives Day. So how will fundraising through the Colorado Gives Day campaign impact your work?
Yeah, I'm sure a lot of people have said this, but unrestricted funding like this is so, so important. We have a lot of funding from government grants and private foundations. But at the end of the day, those people aren't our community. They're really wonderful. They're lovely, and they do such good work. But when we have that funding, we're accountable to this person who does not live in Lake County, does not live even in the mountains. And so having this funding from local community members holds us more accountable to our community, but it also allows us to be more adaptable. Our mission at LCBAG lets us be really adaptable in ways that other nonprofits in the area aren't. So when things come up, if we have this pool of unrestricted funding, we can immediately jump on it and act really quickly without having to go through the grant process.
That's great. I mean, that is absolutely unrestricted funding all day long is what we need to solve community issues.
That was a good answer to that question.
Did you pick out a song today?
I did not.
It's okay. We have a song ready to roll. But yeah, thank you so much for talking about your organization. I feel like you have it sounds like a very well-run place. And I love that you continued, because I remember the Build a Generation happening. And I love that you guys continued that work. Did you say you're the only Build a Generation?
We're the only one that has kept going. Yep. Yeah. And very different from the original mission, but same model. Yep.
Great.
Is there anything you want to add before we hit the music?
No, I just want to thank you so much for having me and spending your time with me this afternoon.
Thanks for being here.
Yeah, here we go. Thank you.